What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we got some great news. Well, some interesting news. As undefeated two division world champion who holds the WBA simultaneously at 130 and 135, four-time world champion superstar boxer Gervonta Davis, he announced via social media that his next fight will not be at 130, nor will it be at 135, but it will be against a world champion. With that said, Gervonta Davis is 24-0, 23 by way of knockout. He is 26 years of age, stands at 5'6" with a 67-inch arm reach. The last time we saw him in the ring was against four-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Leo Santa Cruz, in which he knocked out Leo Santa Cruz in dramatic fashion with a counter, slip, and left uppercut. With that said, now reports have surfaced that Gervonta Davis could be making his way south to 126 and challenge the longest reigning champion in the sport of boxing, that being WBC featherweight world champion superstar boxer Mr. Gary Russell Jr. in his next fight. Now we know there's a little bit of a history there, a little bit of a storyline, because Gary Russell Jr., he has been calling out Gervonta Davis for quite some time. And they're both from the DMV area, okay? So this is interesting to say the least. So Gary Russell Jr., he's slightly older than Gervonta Davis, as Gary Russell Jr. is 32 years of age. Mr. Gary Russell Jr. has a record of 31 wins, 1 loss, 18 wins by way of knockout. He too stands about 5'5" with a 64-inch arm reach. Okay, last time we saw him in the ring was against King Tut. That was February of 2020. Okay, so Gary Russell Jr., he has been known to only fight once a year for quite some time. He hasn't been too active. The one blemish on his resume is to 3-division world champion, former 2-time Olympic gold medalist, former unified lightweight world champion superstar boxer Vasil High-Tech Lomachenko. So, Mr. Gary Russell Jr., he displays a high-level skill set. He has the fastest hands in the sport of boxing. He's very accurate. He has great educated footwork. The knock on Gary Russell Jr. when it comes to this fight with Gervonta Davis is sheer size, okay? Gervonta Davis is the bigger, stronger guy. He's not that much bigger, but he's bigger, okay? He has a 67-inch arm reach to Gary Russell's 64-inch arm reach. He stands at 5'6", 5'5", 5'6". Gary Russell's at 5'4", 5'5", and he's younger. He's 26 years old. Gary Russell Jr. is 32 years of age. Gervonta Davis is more explosive and known to have more power than Mr. Gary Russell Jr. Gervonta Davis is viewed as the most exciting fighter in the sport of boxing currently right now, not named Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder. He gets tons and tons of knockout. In 24 fights, he has 23 knockouts. That speaks for itself. So, and they're highlight reel knockouts on top of it. But Gary Russell Jr., very accurate, high ring IQ, great footwork, great jab, fastest hands in the sport of boxing. So it makes for a very interesting fight. Not to mention, like I mentioned, they're both from the DMV area, the Maryland, Baltimore, DC area, okay? So there's a built-in storyline. Now we know that there is the MGM Grand in now in DC. So, you know, there's definitely a venue to hold this fight. Are fans going to be allowed in attendance? Is a whole different story. Is this a pay-per-view worthy fight? That's a different story. Gervonta Davis made his debut as a headliner on pay-per-view against Leo Santa Cruz, but he's headlined some major cards as of late. His fight with Yoriokas Gamboa in Atlanta, that was huge, and it was a sellout. So he fought in his hometown of Baltimore, and obviously his last fight against Leo Santa Cruz, that took place in Texas. So, you know, they're both southpaws, and they both have, you know, high ring IQs. They're both very athletic. So it makes for a very interesting fight. And neither guy is short on words. This would make, should Gervonta Davis beat Gary Russell Jr., this would make him a 3-division world champion, right? And he's going backwards because his last fight, before his fight with Leo Santa Cruz, was at Yoriokas Gamboa, was at 135. Then he fought Leo Santa Cruz at 130. And now these talks and reports of him possibly facing Gary Russell Jr. at 126 is enormous, okay? There's also reports and rumors that he could possibly go up to junior welterweight 140 and challenge Mario Barrios for his WBA regular title. Now, that seems to be somewhat of a stretch because he is a very, very big junior welterweight at 5'10" with a 71-inch arm reach. He too is undefeated. So, Gervonta Davis, he stated that he didn't feel too comfortable when he fought at 135. So I can't see him going up to 140 and challenging Mario Barrios at 140 when he stated that he wasn't comfortable at 135. So you're going to add on another 5 pounds, and he says that he felt he was more comfortable at 130 and possibly catch weights in between that. Mario Barrios is 26-0, 17 wins by way of knockout. He is 25 years of age, stands at 5'10" with a 71-inch arm reach. Last time he was seen in the ring was on Gervonta Davis's undercard Halloween when he fought Leo Santa Cruz, and Mario Barrios got a knockout victory over Ryan Call. So with that said, he has power. He has very long arms. He's very rangy, and he's very tall. He's very big. He's going to rehydrate to at least 150, okay? Maybe 150 is a stretch. Maybe I would definitely say 147. Okay, so, and he's rangy. Okay, so Gervonta Davis with a 67-inch arm reach to Mario Barrios 71-inch arm reach. So he'll have a 4-inch arm reach, and he's going to have a 5-inch height advantage, and he has power in both hands. He can control the distance, the range. I think that's a very, very risky fight for Gervonta Davis. The fight with Mr. Gary Russell Jr. makes a lot more sense because he's only going another 4 pounds down south, and maybe even their fight at a catchweight of 128, something of that sort. I don't know if the belt would be on the line if it was at a catchweight, but I'm sure the WBC wouldn't mind making an exception for a fight of this magnitude. Now, this is more of a hardcore boxing fan type of fight, not too much for the casual fans. A lot of people know who Gervonta Davis is. He has a huge social media following. Mr. Gary Russell Jr. inactivity. Okay, so sometimes it becomes a situation where it's out of sight, out of mind. But now, what is interesting about this is we saw Gervonta Davis struggle with Leo Santa Cruz's jab. Now, Gary Russell Jr., he's been trying to secure a fight with Leo Santa Cruz for quite some time, but he was unable to do so even when they were in the same division. He's been trying to chase down and get an opportunity to fight Leo Santa Cruz for quite some time. But now, with that said, we saw Leo Santa Cruz had a lot of success with his jab and countering, Gervonta Davis. But he's far more rangy than Gary Russell Jr., obviously. Leo Santa Cruz has a 70-inch arm reach. So he had a 3-inch arm reach advantage over Gervonta Davis, where Gary Russell Jr. is at a 3-inch arm reach disadvantage. Gervonta Davis is going to have the arm reach, and he's going to have, obviously, the edge and power. So, but Gary Russell Jr. has a higher skill set. He's a better pure boxer than Leo Santa Cruz. He uses his jab. He sets up his punches and his combinations beautifully. He sets a lot of traps. And he says that Leonard Ellerbe and Floyd Mayweather would never put Gervonta Davis in the ring with him because they know that he would exploit Gervonta Davis's weaknesses. So Gary Russell Jr., he's been looking to secure this type of fight, this fight particularly, for quite some time. And he is definitely very, very confident that he can beat Gervonta Davis. Like I stated, nobody's going to have too much of an advantage because Gary Russell's hand speed and ring IQ and experience will make up for the lack of the deficiency he'll have with Gervonta Davis's punching power. Gervonta Davis is going to have the edge in punching power, hands down. Explosiveness, his athletic ability. But Gary Russell Jr.'s ring IQ, his quick feet, his high, he has very educated feet, to put himself in position to offset Gervonta Davis's power. And not to mention, there's going to be questions if Gervonta Davis' stamina and his physical, endurance is going to be an issue trying to go south, right? Most people feel like right now he just sparred Brian Norman Jr., who stated that Gervonta Davis is all 165 pounds. So if he's 165 pounds now and he's looking to fight in June against Gary Russell Jr., well, that means he's going to have to lose 35 or more pounds, nearly 40 pounds to make 126 pounds. With Gary Russell, he's probably weighing right now 132 pounds at most. Okay, so conditioning could be a huge factor in this entire equation, but they're both southpaws. They both have ring IQs. They both are very, very confident, so it's going to make for a great fight. Hopefully this fight comes to fruition, and we got to see how this plays out. It's a 50-50 fight. I can't wait. Hopefully it comes to fruition. But let's see how everything unfolds. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.